I took a slow step closer, my heart pounding so hard I could feel in my throat. "You fix my sink so easily," I murmured, my voice softer than I intended. "Figured maybe there's something else you could take care of." A ghost of a smirk tugged at Jake's lips, but there was something else there, hesitation, restraint. "You sure about that?" His voice was low, edged with uncertainty. I could have laughed it off, made a joke, sent him on his way. But I didn't. I wasn't sure I wanted to. Instead, my fingers trailed lightly along his forearm, feeling the tension coil beneath his skin. He was holding back. I could sense it. "You're already here," I whispered. "Might as well make yourself useful." The air between us thickened, shifting with an unspoken weight. His hands twitched, as if warring with himself. Then, finally, he exhaled long and slow, like he had just made a decision. "You're playing a dangerous game, Miss Carter. And yet, you're still standing here." That was all it took. The last shred of restraint in his posture melted away as he closed the distance between us. His hands found my waist, hesitant at first, then firmer, as if realizing this was really happening. His touch was warm, electric, sending a shiver down my spine. I let out a slow breath, tilted my head up to meet his gaze. There was something hungry in his eyes now, something that had been simmering just beneath the surface. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. I didn't. His lips hovered just above mine, the tension between us thrumming like a live wire. My pulse roared in my ears, the weight of anticipation pressing against my chest. And then, as if we had both reached a breaking point, his mouth crashed against mine. The world blurred. His hand slid at my back, pulling me flush against him, his body solid and warm. A low sound rumbled in his throat, vibrating against my skin. My fingers curled into his shirt, gripping the fabric like it was the only thing anchoring me to the moment. Somewhere in the farthest corner of my mind, logic tried to scream at me, to remind me this was reckless, that it would complicate everything. But logic had no place here. Not when his hands were exploring. Not when my body responded so easily, so desperately. Minutes pass in a haze. The only sounds in the room are unsteady breaths, the tension between us unraveling, spilling over. And yet, beneath it all, there was still a hesitation, an awareness of the uncharted territory we were stepping into. Finally, he pulled back just enough to look at me, his breath uneven. "This is—" "I know," I whispered. Silence stretched between us, thick with words neither of us dared to say. Then, as if reality had suddenly caught up to him, Jake took a shaky step back, raking a hand through his hair. "I should—" He started, but the sentence trailed off, like he wasn't sure he believed his own words. I nodded, inhaling deeply, my heart still hammering. "Yeah." He hesitated, his grip tightening around his toolbox, his hand still slightly unsteady. "If you ever need anything else fixed." A breathless chuckle escaped me as I shook my head. "You'll be the first person I call." He lingered in the doorway for a second longer, his gaze sweeping over me one last time before finally stepping outside. The cool air from the hallway rushed in as the door shut behind him, but the heat between us didn't leave. It clung to me, wrapped around me like an invisible force. Exhaling slowly, I pressed my fingers to my lips, still swollen from his kiss. I turned off the kitchen light and made my way upstairs, expecting the adrenaline to fade. But it didn't. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second in my mind. Then, just as sleep began to pull me under, my phone buzzed. I frowned, reaching for it, my heart leaping when I saw his name on the screen. "Jake, can't stop thinking about you." A slow, searing heat spread through me as I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind torn between caution and the undeniable pull of what had just happened. I could have ignored it, could have let the moment end there, but I didn't. I typed out my reply, hesitating only a second before hitting send. Me neither." As the message disappeared into the void, my pulse quickened, because I knew, without a doubt, this was the beginning of something I couldn't take back. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to,